Kyle Bennett woke up in the middle of the night. His eyes were open. He could see the gray ceiling of his small room, but he could not move. His arms would not listen to him. His legs felt like they were made of stone. He tried to turn his head, but nothing happened. This had happened before. The doctors called it sleep paralysis. It was common on long space missions. The loneliness and the darkness did strange things to the human mind. Kyle told himself to stay calm. It would pass. It always passed. Then he heard the voice. "Come, I need you." It was not a sound that came through his ears. It was inside his head, like a thought that was not his own. The voice was soft and gentle, like a whisper from far away. It was female, but not human. There was something strange about it, something old and sad and beautiful all at once. Kyle's heart began to beat faster. Fear spread through his body like cold water. He wanted to scream, but his mouth would not open. He wanted to run, but his legs would not move. "Do not be afraid," the voice said. "I have waited so long. Come to me. To me. I need you." Then, just like that, the paralysis broke. Kyle sat up in his bed, breathing hard. Sweat covered his face and soaked his shirt. He looked around the room. Everything was normal. The small desk, the chair, the photograph of his family back on Earth. Nothing had changed. He checked the clock on the wall. It was 3:47 in the morning, ship time. The Starboard Hope was quiet. Everyone else was sleeping. Kyle told himself it was just a dream. A bad dream caused by too much stress and not enough sleep. He had been on this ship for 3 years. 3 years of floating through empty space, looking at dead planets and lifeless moons. It was enough to make anyone hear voices. He lay back down and closed his eyes. But sleep did not come. Every time he started to drift off, he heard the echo of that voice. "Come, I need you." When morning came, Kyle felt terrible. His eyes were red. His head hurt. His body felt heavy and slow. He put on his uniform and walked to the bridge for his shift. Commander Lisa Monroe was already there. She was a woman in her 50s, with gray hair and sharp eyes that noticed everything. She had been in space for 30 years, and nothing surprised her anymore. When she saw Kyle, she frowned. "You look awful, Bennett," she said. "What happened to you?" "Could not sleep, ma'am," Kyle said. "Bad dreams." Monroe studied him for a moment. She looked like she wanted to ask more questions, but she did not. "Take it easy today," she said. "We are not expecting anything exciting." Kyle nodded and went to his station. He was a communications officer. His job was to monitor signals and send messages back to Earth. It was boring work, but he liked it. It gave him time to think. The Starboard Hope was an exploration ship. It had a crew of 47 people, all scientists and technicians. Their mission was to study the Kepler 442 system, a group of planets and moons about 100 light years from Earth. So far, they have found nothing interesting. Just rocks and ice and empty space. Kyle was staring at his screen when Peter Marsh spoke up. Peter was young, maybe 25, with messy brown hair and glasses that were always sliding down his nose. He worked at the sensor station, watching for anything unusual. "Commander," Peter said slowly, "I'm getting something strange here." Monroe walked over to him. "What is it?" "There is something on the fourth moon of Kepler 442b. Something artificial." Peter's voice was shaking. "I ran the scan 3 times. It is definitely not natural." The bridge went silent. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at Peter's screen. In 3 years of exploration, the Starboard Hope had never found any sign of intelligent life. Not a single building. Not a single signal. Nothing. Monroe leaned closer to the screen. "Show me." Peter pressed some buttons, and the main screen at the front of the bridge came to life. It showed a small moon covered in white ice. Near the equator, in a large crater, there was a structure dot. It was huge. The computer said it was almost 3 kilometers wide. It did not look like anything humans had ever built. The walls were curved and smooth, like they had been grown instead of made. Tall spires rose from the center, reaching up toward the black sky. The whole thing seemed to glow with a faint blue light. "How old is it?" Monroe asked. Peter checked his readings. "The computer says at least 10,000 years. Maybe older. 10,000 years?" Kyle felt dizzy. 10,000 years ago, humans on Earth were still living in caves and hunting with stone tools. And something had built this. "We need to go down there," Monroe said. Her voice was calm, but Kyle could see the excitement in her eyes. "This is first contact. This is what we have been searching for." She turned to the crew. "I need volunteers for a landing team. 5 people. We leave in 2 hours." Kyle raised his hand before he knew what he was doing. He did not want to go. Every part of him was screaming to stay on the ship, to stay safe. But something else was pulling him forward. Something he did not understand. Monroe nodded at him. "Bennett, good. Who else?" 3 more hands went up. Hannah Price, the ship's biologist. She was a short woman with curly red hair and a quick smile. Nick Grant, the head of security. He was tall and muscular, with a serious face and a gun on his hip. Amy Cole, a young technician with black hair and clever hands that could fix anything. Reeves. "You will pilot the shuttle," Monroe said to Danny Reeves, a young man with blonde hair who's the best pilot on the ship. "Yes, ma'am," Danny said. Kyle walked back to his quarters to prepare. His hands were shaking. He kept thinking about the voice from his dream. He knew somehow that it was connected to the structure on the moon. He knew he should tell someone. He should warn them. But every time he tried to speak, the words died in his throat. It was like something was holding them back. Something that wanted him to stay quiet. 2 hours later, Kyle sat in the landing shuttle with the others. The engines hummed beneath his feet. Through the window, he could see the ice moon growing larger. "Everyone ready?" Danny asked from the pilot's seat. Nobody answered. They were all too nervous to speak. The shuttle began to descend through the thin atmosphere. Ice crystals swirled outside the windows like snow. Kyle watched them dance in the light from the engines. "I need you," the voice whispered in his mind. "Come to me." Kyle closed his eyes and tried to stay calm. Whatever was waiting for them down there, he would face it. He had no choice. Something had called him across the stars, and now he had to answer. The shuttle touched down on the ice with a soft bump. Through the window, the alien structure loomed before them, huge and silent and waiting. "Wow," Hannah said quietly. "Here we go." They opened the door and stepped out onto the frozen surface. The cold hit Kyle like a wall, even through his thermal suit. His breath made clouds of white mist in front of his face. The structure was even more impressive up close. The walls seemed to shimmer and change color as he watched, blue and silver and white. There were no doors that he could see, no windows, nothing that looked like an entrance. But Kyle knew the way in. He did not know how he knew. He just did. "This way," he said, and started walking toward the structure. The others followed him. None of them asked how he knew where to go. Maybe they could feel it too. Maybe the structure was calling to all of them, or maybe it was just calling to him. The 5 humans walked across the frozen ground toward the alien structure. Their boots crunched on the ice. Their breath made white clouds in the cold air. Nobody spoke. The only sounds were their footsteps and the soft hum of their thermal suits. Kyle led the way. He did not know why the others were following him. He was not the leader of the group. Nick was the security chief. Hannah was the senior scientist. But somehow, They all seemed to understand that Kyle knew where to go. The structure grew larger as they approached. The walls rose high above them, smooth and curved like the inside of a seashell. Up close, Kyle could see patterns in the material. They looked like writing, or maybe art. Thousands of tiny symbols covered every surface, glowing faintly with blue light. "This is incredible," Hannah whispered. She reached out to touch the wall, then pulled her hand back. "It looks organic, like it was grown, not built." "How is that possible?" Amy asked. "You cannot grow a building." "We cannot," Hannah said. "But maybe they could." Nick walked along the wall, looking for an entrance. "I do not see any doors," he said. "How are we supposed to get in?" Kyle stopped in front of a section of wall that looked different from the rest. It was darker, smoother. He did not know how he knew this was the entrance. He just felt it. "Here," he said. The others gathered around him. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the wall began to glow brighter. The material started to move, flowing like water, pulling apart to reveal an opening. There was no sound, no mechanism that they could see. The wall simply opened for them. Beyond the opening was a corridor lit by soft blue light. The same strange symbols covered the walls. The floor was smooth and warm beneath their feet. "Motion sensors, maybe," Amy said, trying to explain what had just happened. "Or some kind of automatic door." "Maybe," Nick said. He did not sound convinced. His hand rested on his gun. "Everyone stay close. We do not know what is in here." They entered the corridor single file. Kyle went first, then Hannah, then Amy. Nick brought up the rear, watching behind them. Danny stayed with the shuttle, ready to fly them out if anything went wrong. The corridor twisted and turned like a snake. Sometimes it split into 2 or 3 paths. Each time, Kyle chose which way to go without thinking. The others did not question him. They could all feel the pull now, the gentle tug at the back of their minds, guiding them deeper into the structure. "This place is huge," Hannah said. "It must go on for kilometers." 10,000 years, Amy whispered. "Can you imagine?" "This building is older than human civilization." Kyle could not imagine it. He could not wrap his mind around the idea that something intelligent had existed out here, in this empty corner of the galaxy, while humans were still learning to make fire. What had happened to them? Where had they gone? After what felt like hours, the corridor opened into a massive chamber. The ceiling was so high that Kyle could not see it. The walls curved away on all sides, covered in the same glowing symbols. But the walls were not empty. Thousands of cocoons hung from the walls. They were large, big enough to hold a person, and they were made of the same organic material as the rest of the building. Through the semi-transparent shells, Kyle could see shapes inside. Bodies, sleeping figures that looked almost human. "My God," Hannah breathed. "They are alive. Look at the readings. These life forms are alive, in some kind of hibernation." Kyle barely heard her. His eyes were fixed on the center of the chamber, where a raised platform stood like a stage. On the platform, lying on a bed of soft blue light, was a single figure. She was tall. Even lying down, Kyle could tell she was at least 3 meters tall. Her skin was pale blue, the color of ice in moonlight. She had 4 arms, folded across her chest, like she was holding herself. Her face was beautiful in a strange, alien way. High cheekbones, full lips, a delicate nose. She could have been human, if not for the blue skin and the extra arms and the faint glow that surrounded her like a halo. Kyle walked toward the platform. The others called out to him, but their voices seemed far away, unimportant. He climbed the steps and stood looking down at the sleeping figure. Her eyes opened. They were golden, like honey in sunlight, with pupils that were vertical slits like a cat. They looked at Kyle with an intelligence that made him feel small and young and very, very human. "You came," she said. Her voice was the voice from his dreams, soft and gentle and old. It rang inside his head like a bell. "I called you," she said, "and you came. I was not sure you would. Humans are so different from us. I did not know if you could hear me." Kyle found his voice. "Who are you?" "My name is Velsara. I am the last queen of the Ethereum." She sat up slowly, her forearms unfolding with grace. "And these are my people. What remains of them?" She gestured at the thousands of cocoons on the walls. Kyle looked at them again and felt a wave of sadness. So many lives frozen in time, waiting for something. "Why are you here?" he asked. "Why are you sleeping?" Velsara's golden eyes grew sad. "Because we had no choice. Because our enemy was too strong. Because sleeping was better than dying." Hannah had climbed the platform to stand beside Kyle. A scientific curiosity had overcome her fear. "How long have you been asleep?" "I do not know exactly," Velsara said. 10,000 of your years. Perhaps more. Time loses meaning when you sleep for so long." "And you have been calling out all this time?" Kyle asked. "Looking for someone to hear you?" "Yes, my body sleeps, but my mind wanders. I have touched many minds over the centuries. Most cannot hear me. Some hear me, but do not understand. A few understand, but are too afraid to answer." She looked at Kyle with something like wonder. "But you heard me, and you understood. And you were afraid, but you came anyway. Why?" Kyle did not know how to answer. He thought about it for a long moment. "I guess I wanted to know," he finally said. "I wanted to know who was calling me. I wanted to know if I was crazy or if it was real." Velsara smiled. It transformed her alien face into something warm and almost human. "You are not crazy, Kyle Bennett. What you heard was real. And I am very glad you came. How do you know my name?" "I have been in your mind. I know many things about you. I know you are lonely. I know you miss your home. I know you feel like you are waiting for something important to happen, but you do not know what it is." She reached out with one of her hands and touched his forehead. Her fingers were cool and smooth. "Now something important has happened. Now everything changes." Images flooded Kyle's mind. He saw stars being born and dying. He saw great ships crossing the darkness between galaxies. He saw cities that floated in the clouds of gas giants and stations that orbited around black holes. He saw the Ethereum in their glory, tall and beautiful and wise. And then he saw the darkness dotted came from beyond the edge of the galaxy, a shadow that ate light and consumed life. It swept across the stars like a wave, leaving nothing behind. World after world went silent. The great cities fell. The mighty ships were destroyed. The Ethereum ran, but there was nowhere to run. The darkness was everywhere. "The harvesters," Velsara said, and her voice was filled with old pain. "That is what we called them. They came from somewhere outside our galaxy. They consumed life itself. They drain the energy from living things and use it to grow stronger. We fought them for 1,000 years, but we could not stop them. Nothing could stop them." Kyle pulled back from the vision, gasping for air. His legs felt weak. Nick caught him before he could fall. "What did you see?" Nick demanded. "What did she do to you?" "She showed me," Kyle said. "She showed me why they are hiding here. She showed me what killed her people." He looked at Velsara, and for the first time, he felt real fear. Not fear of her, but fear of what she had shown him. "Are they still out there?" he asked. "The harvesters. Are they still out there?" Velsara nodded slowly. "Yes, they consumed everything in this region of the galaxy. Everything except your people. Why not us? Because when the harvesters passed through this area, Your species was too primitive to notice. You were not worth harvesting. But things have changed. You have grown. You have spread into space. You have become visible." Her golden eyes met his. "The harvesters will notice you soon. Perhaps they already have." The chamber was silent. Kyle could hear his own heart beating in his chest. He thought about Earth. He thought about the billions of people going about their daily lives, not knowing that something terrible was waiting in the darkness between the stars. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. "Because I need your help," Velsara said. "My people cannot fight anymore. We are too few, too weak, too tired. But your people are young and strong and full of fire. I felt it in your mind. Humans do not give up. Humans do not accept defeat. Even when everything seems hopeless, you keep fighting." She stood up from her bed of light, towering over Kyle, her forearms spread wide. "I am asking you to help us, Kyle Bennett. I am asking you to help us fight the darkness. Will you?" Kyle looked at the thousands of sleeping Etherim. He looked at his crewmates, standing in the alien chamber with fear and wonder on their faces. He looked at Velsara, the last queen of a dying species, asking for help from creatures she barely understood, and he heard himself say, "Yes." Kyle and the others returned to the Starward Hope with Velsara. The alien queen moved through the ship's corridors like a dream, her tall blue form drawing stares from every crew member they passed. Some looked curious. Some looked afraid. A few looked like they wanted to run away and hide. Commander Monroe was waiting for them in the conference room. She had heard their reports over the radio. She knew what they had found. But seeing Velsara in person was different. The commander stood very still as the alien queen entered the room, her sharp eyes taking in every detail. "Welcome aboard," Monroe said. Her voice was steady, but Kyle could see her hands shaking slightly. "I am Commander Lisa Monroe. I lead this ship." Velsara bowed her head. "I am Velsara, last queen of the Etherim. I thank you for your welcome. I know this must be strange for your people." "Strange does not begin to describe it," Monroe said. "Lieutenant Bennett tells me you have information about a threat to humanity. I need to hear everything." They sat around the conference table. Kyle, Hannah, Nick, and Amy took their usual seats. Velsara sat at the end of the table, her forearms folded in her lap. She looked calm, but Kyle could sense the tension in her. She had waited 10,000 years to tell this story. "My people were once great," Velsara began. "We ruled an empire that stretched across hundreds of star systems. We built cities on 1,000 worlds. We sailed between the stars like your ancestors sailed between islands. We thought we would last forever." She paused, and her golden eyes grew dark. Then the harvesters came. She told them the whole story. The harvesters had appeared at the edge of the galaxy about 15,000 years ago. Nobody knew where they came from. Some thought they were from another galaxy. Some thought they were from another dimension. Some thought they were older than the universe itself. That it did not matter where they came from. What mattered was what they did. The harvesters consumed life. Not just killed it, but drained it, sucked out every drop of biological energy, and used it to make themselves stronger. They moved from world to world, system to system, leaving nothing but dead rock behind them. They had no bodies that anyone could see. They were like shadows, vast clouds of darkness that blocked out the stars. "We fought them," Velsara said. "We fought them with everything we had. Ships, weapons, soldiers, nothing worked. The harvesters could not be killed. They could not even be hurt. Every attack passed right through them." "That sounds impossible," Nick said. "Everything can be hurt. Everything has a weakness." "We thought so too," Velsara said. "We studied them for centuries. We captured small pieces of their shadow matter and tested them in our laboratories. And eventually, we found something. A weakness so small, so hard to exploit, that it almost did not matter. She held up one of her 4 hands. A ball of light appeared in her palm, glowing soft blue. The harvesters are made of energy patterns, she explained. They look like shadows, but they are really just very complex waves of energy. If you can disrupt those patterns, if you can make them vibrate at the wrong frequency, they fall apart. A resonance weapon, Amy said, her eyes lighting up. You created something that attacks them on an energy level. Yes, we called them resonance bombs. They worked. For the first time, we can actually hurt the harvesters. Velsara's voice grew bitter, but it was too late. We had lost too many worlds, too many ships, too many people. By the time we figured out how to fight back, there was almost nothing left to fight with. She closed her hand, and the light went out. I gathered the survivors and brought them here, to this forgotten moon in an empty system. We built the hibernation vault and went to sleep, hoping to outlast the harvesters. Hoping that someday, someone would come and help us. Commander Monroe leaned forward. How many of your people are in that vault? About 50,000. That is all that remains of an empire of billions. The number hung in the air like a weight. 50,000 survivors from a civilization that had once ruled the stars. It was too sad to think about. What do you want from us? Monroe asked. I want your help. The harvesters are still out there. They have consumed almost all life in this part of the galaxy. Your species is one of the few that remains. Velsara looked around the table at each of them. And they will come for you. Maybe not today. Maybe not this year. But soon. The harvesters are patient. They have all the time in the universe. Why should they care about us? Hannah asked. Humanity only has a few colonies. We are tiny compared to your empire. Size does not matter to the harvesters. Life matters. And your species is very alive. Velsara's golden eyes seemed to glow. I have watched your people from afar. You burn with energy. You grow so fast. You spread across space like fire spreads across dry grass. The harvesters will see you as a feast. Kyle felt sick. He thought about his parents back on Earth, his sister, his friends, all of them living their normal lives, not knowing that something terrible was watching from the darkness. What can we do? He asked. If your empire could not stop them, how can we? I do not know, Velsara admitted. But I know that doing nothing is certain death. Fighting at least gives us a chance. She looked at Kyle. Your people have something mine did not. A fire that burns even in the darkest night. A refusal to accept defeat. I felt it in your mind when I called you. You humans are stubborn. You do not give up. Before anyone could respond, an alarm began to sound. Red lights flashed on the walls. Peter Marsh's voice came over the intercom, scared and urgent. Commander, we have contacts incoming. 3 large objects approaching the system at high speed. Very high speed. Faster than anything we have ever seen. The room went cold. Everyone looked at Velsara. Her face had gone pale, her golden eyes wide with fear. No, she whispered. It cannot be. Not so soon. What is it? Monroe demanded. The harvesters. They have found us. Velsara stood up, her tall form shaking. They must have detected your ship when it entered the system. The technology you use, the energy signatures, it called to them like a light in the darkness. Monroe was already moving. Everyone to battle stations. How long until they reach us? Peter's voice crackled over the intercom. At current speed, they will be here in 3 days. 3 days. Kyle felt time pressing down on him like a physical weight. 3 days to prepare for an enemy that had destroyed a galactic empire. 3 days to find a way to survive. The resonance bombs, he said suddenly. You said they worked against the harvesters. Can we build one? Valsara looked at him with surprise. The technology is complex. My people spent centuries developing it. We do not have centuries. We have 3 days. Can you teach us what you know? Valsara was silent for a long moment. Kyle could see her thinking, calculating, weighing the possibilities. I can try, she finally said. I have the knowledge in my mind. The designs, the formulas, the techniques. If your engineers can learn fast enough, if your technology is compatible with ours, maybe we can build something. Then let us get started, Kyle said. He looked around the room at his crewmates. They were all scared. He could see it in their eyes, in the way they held their bodies. But underneath the fear, he saw something else. Determination. Anger. The stubborn human refusal to go quietly into the night. We have 3 days to save humanity, Kyle said. I do not know about you, but I'm not planning to waste a single second. The next 3 days were the busiest of Kyle's life. The whole ship became a workshop. Engineers and scientists worked side by side with Valsara, learning about Ethereum technology as fast as they could. They pulled apart equipment and rebuilt it. They wrote new programs. They tested theories and discarded failures and tried again. Kyle was not an engineer, but he helped wherever he could. He carried supplies. He delivered messages. He brought food and water to people who were too busy to stop working. When he was not doing any of those things, he sat with Valsara, asking questions, trying to understand. You are working so hard, Valsara said to him on the second night. You have barely slept since this started. I will sleep when this is over, Kyle said. Right now, we have work to do. Valsara studied him with her golden eyes. This is what I meant, she said quietly. This fire that burns in you. My people lost that fire long ago. We became tired. We accepted defeat. But you humans, you keep fighting even when there is no hope. There is always hope, Kyle said. Even if we lose, at least we tried. At least we did not just give up and wait to die. Valsara smiled, and for a moment she looked almost human. I am glad I called you, Kyle Bennett. Whatever happens next, I am glad you came. On the morning of the third day, Amy Cole stood in front of the crew with a device in her hands. It was ugly, a mess of wires and circuits and glowing crystals from the Ethereum structure. But it was finished. This is the resonance bomb, she said. If Valsara is right, it should be able to disrupt a harvester's energy patterns and tear it apart. Should? Nick asked. We have never tested it. We do not have anything to test it on. Amy shrugged. But the theory is sound, and it is the best chance we have. Commander Monroe looked at the device, then at her crew. Then we use it. Who wants to fly it into the harvester? Danny Reeves raised his hand. I will do it. I am the best pilot on this ship. If anyone can get close enough and get out again, it is me. Monroe nodded. All right, Reeves. Get ready. The harvesters will be here in 6 hours. The hours passed slowly. Everyone on the Starward Hope was tense, waiting, watching the sensors for any sign of the approaching enemy. Kyle stood on the bridge beside Commander Monroe, his eyes fixed on the main screen. It showed nothing but empty space and distant stars. Then Peter Marsh spoke up. Contact. I have visual on the harvesters. The main screen flickered and changed. For a moment, Kyle did not understand what he was seeing. It looked like a piece of space had gone wrong, like someone had spilled ink across the stars. 3 dark shapes moved against the blackness, blocking out the light behind them. They were huge. The computer said each one was at least 200 kilometers across. They moved without engines, without any visible means of propulsion, drifting through space like clouds of shadow. And they were heading straight for the starward hope. "They are beautiful," Hannah whispered. "In a terrible way." "They are death," Valsara said. She stood at the back of the bridge, her tall blue form rigid with fear. "That is what they are. Death given form." Kyle felt cold all over. Seeing the harvesters in his mind was one thing. Seeing them with his own eyes was something else entirely. They were wrong. Everything about them was wrong. His brain could not process what it was seeing. It was like looking at a hole in the universe. Commander Monroe's voice cut through the silence. "Reeves, are you ready?" Danny's voice crackled over the radio. "Ready, ma'am. The bomb is loaded. Just give me the word. Wait until they are closer. We only have one shot at this." The minutes crawled by. The harvesters grew larger on the screen, blocking out more and more of the stars. Kyle could feel something pressing against his mind, a cold pressure that made it hard to think. He realized with horror that it was the harvesters. They were reaching out with their alien thoughts, probing the ship, tasting the life inside. "They know we are here," Valsara said. Her voice was strained. "They can feel us. They are hungry." Kyle felt sick. He imagined those shadow creatures wrapping around the ship, draining everyone aboard, leaving nothing but empty husks behind. He pushed the image away and forced himself to focus. "They are in range," Peter reported. 100,000 kilometers and closing. "Reeves, go," Monroe ordered. The shuttle launched from the cargo bay, its engines burning bright against the darkness. Kyle watched on the screen as Danny flew toward the lead harvester, a tiny point of light heading into an ocean of shadow. "Steady," Danny said over the radio. "Nice and easy. These things are big, but they are slow. I can do this." The harvesters did not react at first. Maybe they did not consider the small shuttle a threat. Maybe they did not understand what it was. They just kept drifting forward, their vast forms blocking out the stars. 20,000 kilometers, Peter said. 10,000. 5,000. Reeves is entering the target zone. Kyle held his breath. On the screen, the shuttle disappeared into the lid harvester, swallowed by the darkness. For a terrible moment, there was silence. Then Danny's voice came over the radio. "I am inside. Setting the timer. 30 seconds to detonation. Getting out now." The shuttle burst out of the harvester's shadow, engines burning at full power. Kyle watched it streak away from the dark mass, racing against time. 20 seconds, Peter counted. 15. 10. "Come on," Kyle whispered. "Come on. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Light exploded inside the harvester. Not fire, not an explosion, but pure white light that spread out from the center like ripples in a pond. The shadow creature convulsed, its vast form twisting and breaking apart. Pieces of darkness flew off into space and dissolved into nothing. The resonance bomb worked. The bridge erupted in cheers. Kyle found himself yelling along with everyone else, his fists raised in the air. They had done it. They had actually done it. They had hurt something that had destroyed an empire. But the celebration died quickly. The other two harvesters were still there. They had stopped their approach and were hovering at the edge of the system, watching. Kyle could feel their attention focused on the ship, could feel their confusion and something that might have been fear. "They have never felt pain before," Valsara said. Her voice was filled with wonder. "They have never lost one of their own. They do not know what to do. Will they attack?" Monroe asked. "I do not know. They might. Or they might retreat to consider what happened." Valsara watched the screen intently. "The harvesters are patient. They have all the time in the universe. They may decide to wait and study you before they try again. For a long moment, nothing happened. The two remaining harvesters floated in space, their shadow forms rippling and shifting. Kyle could feel them thinking, deciding, weighing their options. Then, slowly, they began to turn away. "They are leaving," Peter reported. "Heading out of the system. Speed increasing. They are running." Kyle slumped against the console, his legs suddenly weak. He could not believe it. The harvesters, the creatures that had destroyed a galactic empire, were running away from them. From humans, Danny's shuttle docked a few minutes later. When the young pilot stepped out, the whole crew was waiting for him. They lifted him onto their shoulders and carried him through the corridors, cheering and laughing and crying all at once. "You did it," Kyle said when he finally got a chance to shake Danny's hand. "You actually did it." "We all did it," Danny said. "The bomb would not exist without Velsara. The ship would not be here without Monroe. You brought us all together." He grinned. "But yeah, the flying part was all me." That night, there was a party in the mess hall. It was not much of a party by Earth standards. Just some music playing over the speakers, and people sharing whatever food they could find. But everyone was there, humans and Velsara together, celebrating their impossible victory. Kyle found himself standing beside Velsara, watching the others dance and laugh. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For calling me. For trusting us. For giving us a chance to fight." Velsara smiled. "Thank you for answering. Thank you for being stubborn enough to come when I called." She looked at the celebrating humans. "My people gave up. We accepted defeat. We let the darkness win. But you refused to do that. Even when everything seemed hopeless, you kept fighting." "That is what humans do," Kyle said. "We are not very good at giving up. No, you are not." Velsara's golden eyes were soft. "I think that is why I called you. I felt that fire in your mind, and I knew you were different. I knew you could help us." "The fight is not over," Kyle said. "The harvesters will come back. They will bring more of their kind." This was just the beginning. Yes, this was just the beginning. Velsara turned to look at him. "But now there is hope. Now there is a chance. That is more than we have had in 10,000 years." Kyle thought about the future. He thought about the battles to come, the sacrifices that would have to be made, the long war against an enemy that had destroyed civilizations. It was terrifying. It was overwhelming. It was beyond anything he had ever imagined. But they had won today. They had proven that the harvesters could be hurt, could be killed, could be beaten. And if they could do it once, they could do it again. Commander Monroe climbed onto a table and raised her hand for silence. The music stopped. Everyone turned to look at her. "Today, we made history," she said. "Today, we proved that humanity does not back down from a fight. We killed a harvester. We drove the others away. We showed them that we are not easy prey." She looked around at her crew, at the tired faces and proud eyes. "But this is just the start. When we get back to Earth, we need to tell everyone what we found. We need to warn them about what is coming. We need to prepare our species for war." Her voice grew hard. "Because the harvesters will be back. And next time, they will not underestimate us. Next time, they will come in force." She raised an imaginary glass. "To the starward hope, to humanity, and to victory." "To victory," the crew echoed. Kyle repeated the words along with everyone else. He did not feel like a hero. He felt tired and scared and uncertain about the future. But he also felt something else. Pride, hope, determination. Whatever came next, humanity would face it together. They would fight. They would struggle. They would probably lose some battles along the way, but they would never give up. That was what made them human. The Starward Hope began its journey back to Earth 3 days after the battle. The ship was damaged from the stress of the encounter. Several systems needed repairs. The crew was exhausted, but they pushed on, driven by the knowledge that every day mattered. Velsara spent most of the trip working with the engineers. She taught them everything she knew about Ethereum technology. The weapons, the shields, the engines that could bend space and travel between stars in days instead of months. The humans learned quickly. Velsara said she had never seen anyone learn so fast. "Your minds are so flexible," she told Kyle one evening. They were sitting in the observation deck, watching the stars stream past the windows. "My people spent centuries developing each new technology. You do it in weeks. It is like watching time move at a different speed." "We have to," Kyle said. "We do not have centuries. We barely have years. That is what drives you. The knowledge that time is short. It makes you work harder, think faster, push further." Velsara shook her head. "My people forgot how to do that. We became comfortable. We thought we would live forever. And then the harvesters came, and we did not know how to fight anymore." Kyle looked at her. "You are fighting now. Because of you. Because you showed me that it is not too late to start again." She smiled, and her golden eyes were warm. "You gave me hope, Kyle Bennett. I had forgotten what hope felt like. Back on the ice moon, the Ethereum were beginning to wake up. Velsara had sent the signal before they left, telling her people that it was safe to emerge. 50,000 survivors, rising from 10,000 years of sleep, ready to join the fight against their ancient enemy. It was not a large army, but it was a start. The starward hope reached Earth after 2 months of travel. As they approached the blue planet, Kyle felt a strange mix of emotions. Home. He was finally going home. But he was also bringing terrible news. The news that humanity was not alone in the universe, and that the company they kept wanted to eat them. The ship landed at the main spaceport in North America. A crowd was waiting for them. News of their discovery had traveled ahead, transmitted encoded messages that made the government very nervous. The president herself was there, along with generals and scientists and reporters from every news service on the planet. Commander Monroe stepped off the ship first. She walked up to the president and saluted. "Ma'am, I have a lot to tell you." The briefings lasted for weeks. Kyle was called to testify in front of committees and councils and boards. He told his story over and over again, until he knew every word by heart. The voice in the dark, the alien structure, Velsara, the harvesters, the battle, the victory. Some people did not believe him. They said it was a hoax, a trick, a misunderstanding. But then Velsara stood before the United Nations and told her story, and the doubters fell silent. It is hard to deny the truth when an alien queen is standing right in front of you, her blue skin glowing faintly under the fluorescent lights. "We come to you not as conquerors or saviors," Velsara said to the assembled leaders of Earth. "We come to you as partners. We have knowledge that can help you survive. You have a spirit that can help us fight. Together, we have a chance against the darkness. Apart, we have none." The decision to form an alliance was made within days. The Ethereum would share their technology. Humanity would provide soldiers and ships and factories. Together, they would prepare for the war to come. Kyle was offered a promotion. Commander Monroe wanted him to lead one of the new defense squadrons being formed to protect Earth. He accepted without hesitation. "Are you sure?" Danny asked him the night before he left for training. They were sitting in a bar near the spaceport, drinking beer and watching the sunset through the window. "This is going to be dangerous. Really dangerous. People are going to die." "I know," Kyle said. "But what else am I supposed to do? Go back to my old life and pretend none of this happened? Wait around for the harvesters to come and kill everyone I love?" Danny nodded slowly. Yeah, I guess I feel the same way. He raised his glass. To the crazy ones. The stubborn ones. The humans who refused to give up. To the humans, Kyle agreed. The months turned into years. Earth transformed itself from a peaceful planet into a fortress. Shipyards sprang up in orbit, building hundreds of new warships armed with Ethorum weapons. Factories pumped out resonance bombs by the thousands. Young men and women enlisted in the new Space Defense Force, ready to fight for their species. The Ethorum settled on Mars, building a new home in the Red Desert. They worked alongside humans, teaching and learning, their ancient knowledge mixing with human innovation. New technologies emerged, things that neither species could have created alone. Kyle rose through the ranks quickly. He was a captain now, commanding his own ship, the Defiant. It was a small vessel, fast and deadly, designed for hit-and-run attacks against Harvester scouts. He had seen combat a dozen times, and he had never lost a battle. But he knew the real fight was coming. The scouts were just the beginning. The Harvesters were out there, watching, waiting, gathering their strength. When they finally attacked in force, it would make everything so far look like a practice drill. On the 5th anniversary of first contact, Kyle went back to the observation deck where he and Velsara had talked during that first journey home. She was there waiting for him, her tall blue form silhouetted against the stars. 5 years, she said as he sat down beside her. It seems like 5 days. And 500 years at the same time. Kyle agreed. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars turn slowly outside the window. Somewhere out there, in the darkness between galaxies, the Harvesters were coming. Kyle could feel them sometimes, pressing against his mind like they had that first day. They were angry now, hungry. They had tasted human defiance, and they wanted revenge. Are we ready? Kyle asked. No, Velsara said honestly. We are stronger than we were. We have better weapons, more ships, more soldiers. But the Harvesters are older than the stars. They have destroyed civilizations that make ours look like children playing with blocks. We cannot truly be ready for them, but we will fight anyway. Yes, we will fight anyway. She turned to look at him, her golden eyes glowing softly in the dim light. That is what I love about your people, Kyle. You know you might lose. You know you might die. You know the odds are against you. And you fight anyway. You refuse to accept defeat. You refuse to give up. Kyle thought about his family back on Earth. His parents, growing old but still proud. His sister, married now with children of her own. All the people he was fighting to protect. There's an old human saying, he said. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage against the dying of the light. Velsara smiled. I like that. It sounds like something my people might have said before we forgot how to rage. You remember now. Yes, thanks to you. Thanks to all of you. She reached out and took his hand, her cool blue fingers wrapping around his warm human ones. Whatever happens next, I want you to know something. These 5 years have been the best years of my life. Fighting alongside your people, learning from you, being part of something bigger than myself. I had given up hope. I was ready to sleep forever. And then you came, and everything changed. Kyle squeezed her hand. I woke up one night and heard you calling. I thought I was going crazy. I thought it was just a dream, but you came anyway. Yeah, I came anyway. He looked out at the stars, at the infinite darkness where the enemy waited. And I am glad I did. The alarm sounded the next morning. Long-range sensors had detected a massive fleet approaching the outer edge of the solar system. Hundreds of Harvesters, maybe thousands, moving together like a wave of shadow. Kyle ran to the bridge of the Defiant and took his seat. Around him, his crew was already preparing for battle. They were young and scared and ready to fight. Commander Monroe's voice came over the fleet-wide channel. She was an admiral now, commanding the combined human and Ethereum defense force. All ships, this is Admiral Monroe. The enemy is here. This is the battle we have been preparing for. This is the moment that decides the future of our species. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was fierce and proud. They think we are weak. They think we will break and run. They think they can sweep through our system and consume everything we have built. Let us show them how wrong they are. Let us show them what humanity is made of. Let us show them the fire that burns in our hearts. The fleet began to move, hundreds of ships rising to meet the darkness. Kyle watched them on his screen, human and Ethereum side by side, ready to fight together. All hands to battle stations, he said. It is time to show these things what happens when they mess with humanity. The Defiant accelerated forward, leading the charge into the shadow. Behind them, the sun blazed bright against the void. The war for survival had begun, and humanity was not going down without a fight.